Hello, my darlings. Thank you for tuning into the Seasonal Pages podcast, where listeners like yourself can hear about content such as books, writing, and more. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, everyone tuning in. So, today I'm going to be speaking on my March reads for 2021. So, March was a very interesting month because I ended up branching off to different genres and really decided to get out of my comfort zone of what I usually read. I usually go for like romance or historical fiction or poetry. And this month, I actually had the chance to read a bunch of different genres, which I was super happy about. So, one thing I actually want to mention, which was odd, is that I did not read any poetry this month. I actually tried to read quite a few poetry books and it just was not grabbing me. Do you ever have those moments where, like, I always read this, and then one month you have this particular read once again, and then it's just not grabbing you? That's what happened to me. So, I'm pretty sure you have been through that or had something similar where a book that you really wanted to read and it just wasn't grabbing you as much. That's what happened to me. I even tried to go into not only a new set of poetry, but also books that I loved in the past, and I just was not getting it with the poetry. So, this month, I'm proud to say that I actually read something from thriller and mystery and fantasy. So that's something I know that I mentioned before in my February podcast episode, that I wanted to branch out and kind of learn, well, not learn, but devour other genres and see what I kind of like as well. Because I love crime shows, but have never read crime books, which is so weird. I'm surprised that I have not done that. So, this month I actually did something really, really cool and read a bunch of different books. Of course, they're all short. I do not know if you listened to my February podcast, but I had decided that for this year, I will not put a lot of pressure on myself and just read what I really want to read. And pretty much, I'm really into short books. I feel like short books are a way for me to try out different genres, read other authors, and also get a chance to love reading with everything that I have going on throughout my day and week, and don't feel like pressured to finish up like a book that's like 400 or 500 pages. I love lengthy books, but I also love short books. So I am excited to tell you about my March reads. So, like I said, I did not read any poetry. I actually read something from humor, I read something from mystery and thriller and fantasy, I read something from self help. I read a little bit of a lot of things, if I have to be honest. So, the first book that I actually read was called Candace, and this book fits underneath my humorous and comedy genre. And this book is by Michelle Miller. So it's a shorter book. I want to say it's like less than 50 pages. And pretty much this book is about a woman named Candace and her on her first date, a blind date at that. So she does not know the person. She just went there and just to see if there's any chemistry. She was basically set up. And so the book was funny to me because of how she was speaking on her own thoughts on this date. It actually showed another side to how a woman feels on a first date or just on a date in general. And so it also had like a splash of like feminism in it somewhere, like towards the end, really. I would say throughout, but we're really just going to focus on at the end. So it had me wondering, like, what are the rules to dating? What are the rules to a first date? And what would I want? What would the person I'm going out would want? Just a bunch of different things. That's what this book kind of left me wondering with. Now, I will say it is kind of wordy. I feel like it was some moments where it was like run-on sentences, and I was like, oh, okay, so this should have had a break. I will definitely admit that. I feel like I would recommend this book if you're looking for something that's like quick and funny and pretty much just like, ha, like this is different. That's the way I can kind of put it because it's not a horrible book. It's not like a book you would be like, "What am I reading?" Yeah, it actually kept me engaged. It was I looked at it more of like a comedy book, more of just looking at someone and their thought process on going on a blind date. That's what I would say about this book. It was straight to the point. It pretty much felt like a first chapter of a bigger book. If the author had made something bigger, that's what it kind of felt like. But I can see how some people would not like the book, but I would say that I personally enjoyed it and found it funny. I even like asked my boyfriend about the ending, and thought like, "Hey, what if this happened on a blind date with you? What would you think?" It actually led down to like a deep discussion and just had us both laughing, like, "Wow, okay." That's pretty much how this book was. If you're into something like that, that's kind of like out there in a sense, but funny. And it's definitely an adult book as well. I want to mention that part. Adult content, adult language. It's an adult book to me. So, the next book that I read was Bingo Love by T. Franklin. And this one I put into the category of romance. So, this is a graphic novel that I absolutely adored. I highly recommend this one to anyone. Um, it does have adult content in it, so I want to mention that. It has like sex scenes and like language and adult like experiences, a bunch of different things. And basically, this book is about two older women that get together and decide to be together in older age. And so they're both bisexual. They actually met when they were like younger, teenagers. And so they met during like a certain era, obviously, that was just terrible for them. And so they went off and kind of like did their own thing and then eventually came back together and they met at bingo. So that's the biggest thing. They met when they were teenagers at a bingo session and then they met again in older age at a bingo session. So that's the bingo love part of it. It was really, really cute, and it actually showed different sides of relationships and pretty much also 2 women that were bisexual, so it was just great. And also, what I love is that I had the edition that was, like, this special edition, so I got a chance to kinda see different storylines that did not make it into the original graphic novel, and that was really refreshing. I feel like I got a lot of different answers that I wanted, and also saw, like, different details of the relationship. It was just adorable, so I recommend it. It is a really, really cute story, and like I said, it does have adult content, so I wanna mention that part. It's not something that I want you to be surprised by. It has adult language and everything. So, but I still recommend it to people that want to read a very cute love story that's in a graphic novel form. Now, the next one that I read is a fantasy book, and this is by an author I've been really, really wanting to read because I've heard about her like a billion times, Roxane Gay. So, the irony is she actually went to the same college that I went to, which I did not know until I went digging for her. And also, she's written a lot of feminist books, also books about weight, so many, so many books that people just love. And I've been wanting to read something of hers. And so I was super happy that I found this book that actually is short. So the name of the book is Graceful Burdens. And so this particular book is actually about people in society that are able to reproduce and cannot reproduce. And basically, the reasons why. And it's all based on a law in society. So, a law and testing and stuff like that tells people whether they can reproduce and have children. And so, it's people that obviously don't want to have children, people that do want to have children, and basically just follows the storyline of like different people that are put into this society and what they have to deal with when they want to have children and they can't, and vice versa when they are forced to have children and they really didn't want them. So it was a very good book. I recommend this as well because it was just different, like very, very different. It shows you like basically how society would be with like different laws. And it made you like really think about like laws that we have in society now, and pretty much about people being able to own their own bodies, want to have a say and a voice with their own bodies. So this book was just great. Graceful Burdens was a really good book. It actually made me want to read more of Roxane Gay's books because I liked her writing. Like, if I really had to say which one of these books I enjoyed the most with the writing, it's another book that I'm going to talk about soon. Roxane Gay was one of the authors that I just really enjoyed her writing. Very great writer. So I plan on reading more of her books. And so I recommend this one, and it's short as well. And I feel like you would want to read more once you read this one. It was like a beginning chapter. That's what I'm kind of seeing with shorter books. They feel like a couple of chapters or either just one chapter, depending on how detailed the book is. But this one feels like a beginning of like something great with a bigger book. That's what this one felt like. This next book is called Payback by Natalie Y. Moore. So, this particular book was part of a series about the South Side of Chicago and pretty much how these different Black men had to actually give out false confessions to crimes that they either committed or did not commit. It was pretty much some men did commit the crimes and some men did not commit the crimes. But it was all based on these different police officers that actually abused them into making these confessions. And so Payback was pretty much how like the Black community tried to change this over time because these cases were happening in the 1970s, 1980s, and so forth with different police officers in the Chicago Police Department. And so it opened up my eyes to different things with Chicago and also the police during the 1970s and 80s and 90s, just even more information that I wasn't even familiar with. And basically how these men got payback for different, and some of these men did, some of these men didn't. So it really just left you like really curious to know like what are the next steps with these men. And yeah, just a heartbreaking story. I recommend it just to learn more about different people in the jail system, about the justice system, just a lot of different things. And it was a short read. And it really made you want to read more about the South Side of Chicago and Chicago in general, especially with this series that they have. So I plan on reading more because it was just such an interesting book. And this one I actually place under politics because that's basically what the whole premise of this book was. And it had a lot of different narratives from like the first person, from actual interviews, and also different, pretty much like newscast information, and a lot of different things that I feel like you would enjoy and like to learn also when it comes to the justice system. So the next book that I read was actually part of a thriller and mystery, and it's called Everything My Mother Taught Me by Alice Hoffman. So Alice Hoffman, she is a really, really well-known author. She actually wrote the book series Practical Magic, and pretty much that series, well, not the whole series, but Practical Magic had gotten turned into a film. I've watched this film a billion times and still haven't read the book. So I ended up buying the book after I read this short story. Well, short book, called Everything My Mother Taught Me. So this book was actually following a young girl that pretty much had a mother that was abusive and the different things that happened during like certain aspects of her life. So we'll say for like from like 12 to like 14 or 15, the different experiences that she had with her mother. And basically, it left you with like, what is going to happen next? I want more of this. And so when I went to look up the author, because at first I was not familiar with her because I had not read Practical Magic. So I went to look up the author afterwards. I was like, what? She's the one that wrote that? So I'm pretty sure that book is going to be so good. And I plan on reading different books in the series. And it's supposed to be a new book, a part of the series coming out this year too. So I'm pretty curious about this. But This book I highly recommend. It will keep you on the edge of your seat. It will make you think about pretty much like what is it like for different people and different parenting styles. And pretty much it has like a splash of crime, a splash of just making you guess like what is going to happen next. And even at the end, I just wanted more of it. So I recommend it to you. It is very, very good. I feel like all my books this month were just good in different ways. And this one just left me wanting more of mystery and thrillers a lot. This is the second book that I was mentioning where I said that the writing was just so good. That's what this book it so, so good. I can see why she's a very, very well-known author now that I'm familiar with her name. Um, so this one was very good. Now, my last book that I read was actually by Mindy Kaling. And so Mindy Kaling is an actress, writer, director. She's pretty much so many different things. She's a well-known actress, and pretty much she decided to write a bunch of different little short books with Amazon, all with different ideas and storylines. And this one in particular was called Sort of, well, not sort of, kind of Hindu. And it left me laughing. I put this one underneath the comedy one because it was really, really funny. She actually told the audience basically what it's like to be kind of Hindu and pretty much what does she want for her daughter when it comes to her heritage. It left me thinking about heritage, self-identity, labels, a bunch of different things, and especially her being a parent. So it was very cute and short and funny. It just gave you like a touch of her personality. And so if you're looking for something kind of funny and cute and basically just looking into what made her think about her being kind of Hindu, I recommend the book. I thought it was funny. And if you're looking for a funny short read, I think you will really enjoy this one. So these are the six books that I read this month. As you can see, each one was so different. They're all based on different plots. Some of them left you on the edge of your seat, like, what is going to happen next? Some of them left you laughing, like, is this really happening? Is this real? Basically, I had a blast in March when it comes to my readings. I felt like I got a chance to dive into different authors and learn about different authors that I was familiar with in some aspect, but not completely. Um, and pretty much learned like what I'm kind of liking when it comes to writing styles. And I kind of like a little bit of everything when it comes to genres. Well, I'm not gonna say everything because I haven't read like any science fiction, so I can't say everything yet. Um, but I'm noticing that I'm liking a lot of other genres. I'm loving thrillers and mysteries. I love being on the edge of my seat. It really reminds me of crime shows, and you're just basically a fly on the wall. I'm loving books that are light and funny and just meant to be funny. They're not meant to be like harsh criticism where you're just like, what is this? It's just meant to be funny. Like it's like watching like a little comedy skit. That's what I kind of put humorous books into. And so I think that's why like I enjoy them in a different way. And I hope that you enjoy them too if you decide to read them. But yes, I just enjoyed a lot of my March reads, and I hope that you enjoy yours too, and you actually get a chance to read any of these books that I read for this month. Of course, if you liked my podcast episode, always stay tuned and check out theseasonalpages.com for more blog posts, especially about this month's reads, and also a bunch of different new products that I launched this month. I hope that you enjoy this episode and stay tuned for the next one.